Marcus Aurelius is the only person in history whose legacy is less defined by his prowess as a ruler and more so by his role as a philosopher. And the reason for that might be because what Marcus did as a philosopher, uh, but because what Marcus did as the emperor doesn't affect us anymore directly in the modern world. But what he did as a philosopher certainly still applies and is getting more and more popular. So it's a lot easier to bring up Marx's philosophy about pain and suffering during a friendly chat than it is to bring him up as the emperor of Rome or just the historical figure. So he was a Stoic philosopher, and Stoics are known for rejecting the idea that pleasure is the holy grail of human happiness, and they think that pain is the matter of indifference as long as one does what ought to be done. And doing what ought to be done according to reason is what separates the virtuous man from the wicked man. So a Stoic needs very little. He doesn't need pleasure. He doesn't need comfort. He doesn't need life itself. If he's got to lose his life for some good end, then so be it. That's not a difficulty for the Stoic. A Stoic also refrains from doing whatever makes the slightest bit of chaos in his soul. So Marcus Aurelius was the last of the five good emperors. He was the last of the five Antonine emperors. He was born in 121 AD and served as the emperor of Rome from 161 AD to 180 AD. And so picture this. As a Roman emperor, your word is essentially law. Whatever you say gets immediately done. So just imagine the temptation that Marcus had to endure. He had the opportunity to fulfill every single bit of desire he had in his soul. If he wanted to, he could kill any man he want. He could kill any man he wanted, just for looking at him the wrong way. If he wanted to, he could have had every woman he wanted, wherever he wanted. He could have lived as swinishly as humanly possible, but he continued to be a Stoic, even during the hardest times. It's easy to be virtuous when you don't know better than poverty. When you don't have the opportunity to fulfill your desires. It's when your willpower is not constantly being tested 24/7. It's easy to be virtuous. It's a lot harder to be virtuous in the position of Marcus Aurelius, however. When your willpower is being tested every day of the week, every hour of the day, and every minute of the hour. Just imagine what kind of temptation he had to endure, and he just imagine the sort of self-discipline that he had in his lifetime. So this is something that Dr. Sugrue put forth in his lecture. He said that put yourself in the position of Marcus Aurelius and see if you can still consider yourself to be a good person under these circumstances. He said that to be totally truthful, I don't think that I can meet the challenge, and personally, I don't think that I can meet the challenge either. We're already struggling with little temptations, such as not cheating on our diet, not cheating on a test, to not gossip, to not squabble in public, and so on and so forth. So our temptations and responsibilities are very negligible compared to what Marcus had to endure in his lifetime. So consider that when you want to take a position of power. Marcus wrote in a diary now known as the Meditations. The book is about 100 pages long, and he is constantly telling himself to be virtuous and to do what ought to be done, regardless of circumstance, to stay calm in distress and refrain from self-indulgence. In the book, he says things like this. If you are doing your duty, don't let it not matter to you whether you are cold or warm, whether you are sleepy or well slept, whether men speak badly or well of you, or even whether you are on the point of death, because even this, the act of dying, is one of the acts of life. And so here too, it suffices to make the best move you can. So when I read this, I immediately thought of the game of chess. In the game of chess, sometimes the best move you can make, the only good move that you can make, is to sacrifice your queen, which is your most valuable piece. But sometimes even your most valuable piece has to go in the pursuit of some good end, which is a checkmate. And the comparison here is that when you're on a battlefield and you know that you're gonna die for some good end, that you're gonna have to realize that death at that point is a matter of indifference, and that your mortality should not be a concern. Should not be a concern to you. So, and then he says something about whose endorsement is important. He says all the time you should consider who are these people whose endorsement you wish, and what are the minds that direct them. When you look at the sources of their judgment and impulse, you will not blame their unwitting error, nor will you feel the need for the endorsement. And then in another book he says, regret is a censor of yourself for missing something beneficial, and I have never missed the pleasure of indulgence, therefore it is not beneficial. So the last sentence I kind of rephrased a bit. It shouldn't be taken literally, but it just tackles the point pretty well, so it's pretty good. So, and then for the last quote, he's talking about free will. He says, if the choice is yours, why do the thing? If it is another's choice, who do you blame? Atoms or gods? Either is madness. There is no blame. If you can put him right, if you can put him right, if you can't, at least put the matter itself right. If that too is impossible, what further purpose does blame serve? So Professor Sugrue in his lecture said about Marcus Aurelius said about the book, that there is a constant whistling in the graveyard tone. And I think that is 100% accurate. He's constantly trying to console himself with the fact that he's going to die someday. And he's kind of telling himself that it's not a problem that he's going to die, and that it shouldn't be a concern to him. Many people interpret this as Marcus not being afraid of death, which is what Professor Michael Sugrue said in his lecture as well. And personally, I just don't think that is the case. And there is no shame in that. Courage, after all, is not the absence of fear. It is doing what ought to be done despite of fear. I think that Marcus was indeed scared to die, but he was in this book even just kind of consoling himself with the fact that he's going to die, and just telling himself that it's not a problem because everybody dies and it's just a natural part of life. So my opinion on the book, I can't say much more than the fact that it's a very good book, and I recommend reading it to everybody. I would recommend reading this book more so to people who are struggling to be hard on them, to be a bit harder on themselves, than people who are already pretty stoic and are already pretty hard on themselves. So yeah, I read some of Seneca's works last year, and they're very comparable with what Marcus wrote. They're both very good to read if you want to read the Stoics, and reading this book by Marcus Aurelius is just a very good beginning for reading Stoics or philosophy in general. Maybe not if you want to read epistemology or something, but it's a very good book of philosophy in general. And I want to pay homage to Professor Sugrue in this video. He died last week because he was suffering from cancer for more than a decade, and it's a shame that he had to die. I haven't had the opportunity to speak to him, and the opportunity is not going to come because he's already dead. And I mean, I was a bit touched by it. But it is what it is. You can't change the past. He was my inspiration for starting this YouTube channel, and I've watched many of his lectures about philosophy and history, and he's a very good inspiration for me. And I think that everybody who is interested in philosophy or anything just uh, concerned with thinking and the process of whatever history or whatever your whatever just whatever concerns itself with philosophy and history. If you're interested in that, please check out Michael Sugrue's channel on YouTube. He's a very good man. So in conclusion, the book is very good. You should read it, and definitely if you are struggling with self-control and indulgence and whatever. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening.